Hey, what's up guys? This is Brad with Spike Fitness, and I want to do a fast video. This video is in response to a viewer question. So the Steel was asking me about leg drive, wanted me to help demystify leg drive. So we're going to try to talk about it real fast, unpack it, and hopefully give you guys maybe a little bit better understanding of leg drive, what it is and how to use it. So we're going to go ahead and get into that. The Steel also mentioned that since I'm home on leave, I am back in my own garage. That he'd hoped I had some chance to get into my garage gym and do some lifting, and clearly we're going to do that today. So yeah, Steel had a chance to get back to the home gym, had 1 or 2 training sessions so far, and we'll see how many more I can get before I have to go back home. Well, back to Korea, that is. Anyway, moving on. All right, so we're talking about leg drive, and leg drive is very important because it gives you kind of a stable platform and power in order to be able to transfer power into the bar for a bench press to be able to complete the bench press or to initiate the bench press, right? So at the complete opposite of leg drive would be taking your legs out of it. And so you can play with this concept, and I encourage you to play with this concept just to see how the absence of leg drive feels, right? So you might wonder why I have this kiddie table right here. Well, and that's so I can put my feet up. So you could take a table like this and just kind of put your feet on the table and try to bench like that, right? So no leg drive. The legs are relaxed and you're just benching without any leg drive, right? You can see how that feels. If you don't have like a little kiddie table, you can just put your legs up like this, right? Like that. So try that a few times and see how the absence of leg drive feels. So you'll get a sense that almost kind of an unbalanced feeling from that because you don't have your legs to help stabilize you. So creating good leg drive creates more stability, right? So that you're not teetering left to right, but then also it gives you some force to be able to initiate and complete the bench press itself. So one thing that I want you guys to think about when initiating leg drive is this. And you're creating leg drive, you almost want to be able to drive so hard that you're going to push yourself off the bench. So, leg drive, right? So the leg drive itself is more of a leg extension versus trying to push the hips up. It's not driving the hips up so far as to lift the butt. It's more actually just pushing as a leg extension, if that makes sense. Okay, so for leg drive, there's a few different positions that you could elect to be in. Some people like a flat foot position, if you look at my feet here. Some people elect to have a flat foot position and they kind of drive off the heels. Some people like to have a heels up position and they're kind of driving with the toes. So you just got to play with it. It's really just a matter of preference, and you got to test it just to see what feels better for you. So heel flat, kind of as I begin to bench, would look like this where the feet are out a bit more and I'm driving. Right, so you can see heels are, feet are flat and I'm digging those heels into the ground. Alternately, you could put the toes up like this and be driving with the toes. So either method is perfectly acceptable depending on your federation. I believe USAPL doesn't allow heels up. But if you're just a garage lifter or whatever, really it's just point of preference, whatever you prefer. Some people prefer to bring their legs back and under them and have that heels up position because they feel that it kind of eliminates their ability to raise their butts. And again, in competition, that's a benefit because if you lift your butt in a competition bench, you miss the lift. It's a no lift. But again, if you're not a competitive lifter, it really doesn't matter which position you pick in terms of one being superior to another. I think they're probably both about equal. It really just comes down to shooter's preference, so whichever you prefer. All right, so we're going to throw a little bit of weight on the bar, just so that I have a little bit of resistance to be able to play with on the demonstration here. So I've got 135 in the bar, and I'll demonstrate a little bit of leg drive and how that should look and should kind of appear to you. Get your position. I elect, when I'm getting in position, I elect hand position first. Then I get up on my shoulders and dig my shoulders and flatten my neck against the bench. And this gives me a good stable position from which to begin to drive, right? Because the point of which I'm actually driving is right here, right? In this area here. So more than anything, I want to make sure that this area is tight and secure, because this is my point of pressure. This is my driving point. And so I want to have that most secure. So hand grip set, shoulders set, shoulders backing in, and then I bring one leg down and then another. So one leg down, then the other. And then my upper body didn't move during that transition process. So everything's still tight and locked in. Now, if you can see my quads are tight, right? Right now I'm actually pushing with my legs. So, the leg drive doesn't necessarily look like some huge shift or some big push or movement. It's really just a continual pressure the whole time that you're supporting that weight. Because that gives you as you curl up, this is your shoulders and this is your hips. You curl up in that position, you get those shoulders nice and tight and dug in. Then you have your legs driving against that point, kind of digging your shoulders into the bench pad and giving you that firm, stable platform from which to press from. In lifting, any unintended movement is loss of power. So if your legs aren't tight, right, you're not providing that stable platform against the shoulders to push, when you lower that weight, there's gonna be some shift down. Any of that downward shift, you're losing tightness and you're losing momentum. And if you're under a load, you're not gonna get that tightness back after you've given it up. So the best thing that you can do is work real hard before you engage the weight, before you accept the weight. Get yourself into a tight, stable position from which to be able to push from, and then wind everything up like a spring around that position, right? Shoulders back in, everything was tight. I brought my lower body down, down to the bench, got my legs stable and tight so that nothing moved once I accepted the load and began to push, right? Everything kind of stays in a good, stable position. And also, while benching, if you're doing maybe anything less than 10 reps, one breath. Right, and you do everything off of one breath. If you breathe in between reps, if you're only doing say 5 or so reps, once you breathe, you give up position again. Chest caves. Once you're under load, you're not getting that position back, at least not as good as you had it before you accepted the load. So I highly recommend one big breath before you accept that weight, and then you hold that breath for the duration of the exercise. If you're doing 10 plus reps, you're going to have to breathe and you're going to have to deal with the fact that you're giving up some position. But if you're doing 10 or more reps, it is not a maximal load. So to give up a little position on a less than maximal load is not nearly as big a deal as giving up position on a maximal or super maximal load. Every scrap of position counts when you're dealing with maximal weights. So again, back to the leg drive piece. The leg drive is more an extension of the quad. If you guys can see how those legs are firing, right? So it's more a leg extension where you feel like your foot might kick out. So you want to have a good, good position. The heels are dug in nice and tight, and everything is tight because you're really what you're doing is you're creating a base to support that upper body, because that upper body, that drive all happens from here, and you don't want any bleeding energy. So legs are driving and pushing into that upper body. I'll get back in position again. So the legs are pushing this way to not allow any downward movement or any relaxation in the body. So one more time. So, Steel, I hope that answers the question. I hope it kind of demystifies leg drive. Leg drive is really all that. There's not much more to it. And it shouldn't be overly complicated. And to give yourself a sense of whether or not you are achieving leg drive or not, bring those feet up, and like I said, put them on a platform and go without leg drive. Do a couple rounds of benching, and then get your feet back again and see how much easier those subsequent reps feel. So the rep work with your leg drive should feel much easier than rep work without leg drive, because again, you're creating tightness, you're not bleeding off energy, you're able to better focus your power into moving that bar in the direction you want to be able to move it in. Yeah, I think that's it, guys. That should pretty well cover leg drive. If it doesn't, if there's anything that's unclear, you guys have any other questions, comments, or concerns, leave in the chat box below. I will respond. I appreciate the question, Steele. Thank you very much for giving me an opportunity to try to help out. Let me know specifically if this video helps you kind of understand leg drive a bit better. And yeah, guys, remember, no matter what it is you think you can't do, like understand some crazy cues you guys hear on the internet, drop me a line, I'll answer the question, or just get your ass in the gym and train despite. You're either going to find an excuse or you're going to find a way, and I hope that you continue to find the way. I appreciate you guys watching this. You guys can help me out with likes, shares, and subscribes, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.